Here we are, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Client Chronicles here at the Cash Compound. As you can see, I've brought one of our clients to the building, and we're going to have a little conversation about what has gone on for the past 2, 3, 4 years and before since she has started the banking process in her life. So please welcome with a big round of applause all across America, Ms. Lydia Callahan.
The favorite client.
Yeah, the best of the best. So, Lydia, first off, let's take it really far back before we get into what's going on now, and introduce yourself with how you were brought up around business and money. Where were you living? You know, what did you kind of feel about your life and financial situation in your path well before we got into banking together?
Gotcha. Well, back in the 80s when I was born, I was brought up in a family that was more financially responsible in the sense of big savers, not spenders.
Okay.
My dad is a pastor of a church, so we never had very much, but we're very frugal with what we had.
Yeah, everything you had was in here, not here. That's all. You've had plenty. You've been blessed, right? Just maybe not with material things.
For sure.
Okay.
Blessed with goodwill.
Because if your parents actually pay attention to this podcast, we don't want to embarrass them. They're good people, right?
No. First of all, podcast is, I'd have to introduce them to that.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I don't think that I was raised very carefully in the sense that I didn't waste money. I appreciated what we had because it came a little more dearly to our family than maybe some who had more and could do more. But it made me appreciate every little thing. So that's a good thing. But I think when I started as an adult to make financial decisions, I was making financial decisions based on the fact that I had money now and I could do things where
all the
I didn't
things
have
that you
before.
Couldn't do as a kid, right?
Yeah. And so you can almost go entirely the opposite direction with that and make poor financial decisions based on the fact that I felt comfortable because I had this buffer.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So before we get into all that adulthood stuff, tell us about, what you wanted to do with your life. Did you work jobs? Did you plan to go to college, join the Army?
I did not. I lived in a basement. I went to college and then was a teacher for about 4 years. So making teacher salary, paying off college.
Okay. Yep.
And then
Undergrad college,
okay. Because then I decided I hadn't had enough college and went back to college.
Oh, okay.
And got master's degrees and had more things to pay for. So since getting out of grad school, looking back on it, so I was able to pay off undergrad debt before I went to grad school.
Just by yourself, working hard.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Working teacher job and then 3 jobs during the summertime.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. Get it. And was able to pay that off in, I think, 2.5 years after undergrad. And then going back to grad school, you sort of sign up for more debt.
Yes, you do. In most
that was
cases.
And for me, that ended up being a lot more debt than I had coming out of undergrad. Because during undergrad, I felt like I was able to sort of balance the debt because I had money from high school that I'd worked jobs and saved up to go to college. And then during college, you have opportunities to have a job while you're in classes. And then during summertime, I would pick up several jobs and work as much as I could. So I tried to work to keep the debt down during undergrad. Whereas in grad school, you have to sort of stop life, go to grad school. That's your main focus. So I felt like it all snowballed really quickly. Then you come out of it with this massive debt.
So you don't have to say anything to the family out here that you don't want to, but approximately how much did you, after you're done with formal schooling and grad school, about how much debt did you have, and what was your plan, or what was going to go on then?
No. And I don't think I think it probably would relate to a lot of people. I graduated when I got done with grad school. I think I had 3.
And this is a master's in education then?
2
masters,
actually.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
A little redundant there, but a master's in education and then a specialist degree in reading. Yep. And so when I completed that last master's degree, I walked away with, I think, $36,000 worth of grad school debt, which I'm currently still paying off.
Okay. So how long ago was that from graduation till now?
That was 6 years, 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got less than 40% left to go to pay that off. So I've made a lot of progress since then. And since since grad school. So I struggled right out of grad school because, and this relates to finances because it directly affected my finances. I couldn't find a job.
Yeah.
Coming out being specialized, I thought, oh, this will be great. I'll really get to dig into my field. And instead,
turns out you were overqualified.
Yes.
Right? We got ourselves a 5-figure debt and a no-figure salary.
That is it. I was the most overqualified nanny you've ever seen.
Okay. But you could, them kids, I'm telling you, they were,
That's right.
You sent them on all sorts of reading adventures.
Correct.
Yes.
It was the reading
it's like
adventure
Peter
squad.
Pan's family, right?
Yes. The Lost Boys and the Lost Nanny.
Yes. The Lost, that's not what I meant. I just meant like you told them great stories of great adventures, but okay.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So, keep going.
Yeah. So, in transitioning out of grad school, not finding a job, trying to find a job, the only job that I was able to find at the time was actually a marketing job for a company who sold stuff to schools. And they liked that I had the ability to speak to teachers and talk to them and relate to them. So I ended up transitioning from the world of education to the world of sales and marketing. And that led to a completely different focus.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the world that I live in now. I'm in a second world of professionalism here. And then, you know this because we've worked together, but the company that I was working for got sold. We all lost our jobs, and a buddy and I started a company. And so I started that entrepreneur life, and I've been directly in that for 4 years now.
Oh, very good. So tell everybody what you do now. What is your company, and what are some of the details around what your verticals are, and
great
commercial. How do you spend your
time? So the company that we started is called Palmetto Fortis, and we specialize in marketing and sales, helping companies develop that relationship with their customer, that sales relationship. So we tend to focus on industries and businesses that have long-term customers, maintaining that relationship with them, showing value over time, and then also customer acquisition. So looking to make sure that you're matching to the best prospective customer for your business, and that you're targeting with your marketing, with your advertising, you're marketing to that, and then maximizing that sales process.
Okay. Yeah. And some of your clients are educational institutions and schools.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
So
teachers.
The business has a couple different arms. One of them is that we founded a sales team that works as a third party for companies that are selling to schools. So we have a database of schools that we sell to, and we represent small to medium companies that offer products that schools need, but that aren't necessarily large enough, like a huge Houghton Mifflin textbook company that has their own marketing and sales department. But these are more entrepreneurial or just small to medium businesses that go to schools. So we represent them, and we do it more efficiently. And we already have a relationship with these schools, and so we offer that service. So we have the two different sides of the company completely. So we have the business sector where we work on specializing in those strategies and really targeting in on your customer. And then we have the sales team that does the schools.
Okay. Now we want to know about how you got introduced to banking. So you said you had a pretty respectful relationship with money. Yeah.
Yes.
So you were in the hole and you understood it.
Yes.
And you were trying to get out of the hole.
True.
You had lots of education, but then, tell us kind of, so when you heard about banking, how did that come about? We've obviously been friends for a good long time. So how did that come about? What were you thinking when it came up?
We have, and you probably tried to describe the banking system that you are letting people know about here. You probably had 2 to 3 conversations with me about it before I actually was able to understand it and sit down and have the opportunity to go through in depth with a presentation like you did. And I had no clue. It went right over my head, and I'm sure probably still does, some of the more intricacies of it. But I do get the gist of it. I get the main ideas. And
now, everybody out there is probably realizing, all of the family out there, the folks who are inside our compound and the vaults and all that stuff that we have in our customer programs are probably realizing they and you and I were really in the same boat when we started. Very confusing. My brother, my cousin, my uncle tried to explain something.
This guy that I know, this makes sense, but please don't listen to me.
Yeah,
about
but don't ask me any questions because I don't know exactly how to even sound like I'm putting sentences together around it. So
you are not going to get intelligent answers from this one.
So we had a couple conversations, and then how did it move forward?
I was able to attend one of your presentations where I heard it with pictures, because that helps, from A to Z. And that really turned the light bulbs on. It was like, oh, I get this. Okay, I can control more of where my money is, the interest rate that it has, and my access to it. And those three things made the most sense. I didn't find that combination of things in any other opportunity at the time.
Yeah. So how long was it before you decided to pull the trigger on this? And you said, this is for me. I should do it. And of course, I don't know everything, but I think this is where I need to be focusing, not all my time and energy, but I need to focus on growing my wealth in this way.
I think between the time that I was at that presentation and the time that I actually signed paperwork was a couple weeks, maybe a month at the outside. It really focused me in a way. So I left the meeting. I'd asked you a couple questions. I had some good conversation with Jonah. And then I sat down and I was like, okay, what can I do? And I get that this is something that I can build over time, but how can I start? What's the best floor for me to get in on? Because I want to make sure that I'm not getting in over my head. So I think it was 3 weeks to a month after that I signed up.
So a couple general questions, so we won't get into, come back and talk about what you're doing now. Okay. It's been a couple of years since you had your first policy contract in force. But here's some questions that I ask people from time to time. Over the course of your entrepreneurial career, you've probably gone through the school of hard knocks and realized there's a lot of things that were going on in the world of business and money that, holy crap, I didn't really understand till I was in there.
So much for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, my word. Okay, so coming from an education background where my entire life up to that point had been centered around grades, comprehension, instructional strategies, all this kind of stuff. And that was my world. Like, I felt very comfortable there. I knew how to handle kids. I knew how to walk through a conversation, how to ask questions to make them talk so that they can tell you what they know and then you can know how to help them. I felt so comfortable there. And then we started this company out of nowhere. And then we had our first little official business meeting in the company. And at the time, it was just me and my business partner, and her husband, who is a CFO for another company, was kind of helping us out. We're like, okay, you have this much. And he kept talking about a P&L. And I was like, what's a P&L? And under the table, I pull out my phone and I Google P-N-L.
Those three letters.
And then I'm scrolling like, this doesn't make any sense. And finally, I just like, hey, guys, what are we talking about here? What's a P&L? And they're like, P&L.
Yeah.
Profit and loss. And that was how uneducated I was into the business world, the business community, and maybe finances in general. And
you're a grown woman with a couple of degrees and a specialist. Major university, major state university here.
Correct.
And obviously an intelligent person.
Oh,
right?
Obviously.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've known you, intelligent person, but kind of like myself, there's so many things. You're starting to realize I don't know about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot of things about important things that I should know. I just don't know. Yes.
And I think a lot of people... okay, for one thing, being in the world of education, you know the importance of being a lifelong learner and realizing that it's okay to say you don't know something. So I'm very comfortable with that. And so I don't have a problem going, excuse me, stop the meeting. I don't know what we're talking about here. Whereas that is maybe a barrier for entry to some people to admit that, I don't really know what's going on here. And they might shy away from something just because that's foreign to me. That's not what I've heard from other people. And so they might shut down an idea more rapidly that way. Whereas I already knew I was in a world where I didn't know a lot of things. So to be presented with a new concept wasn't necessarily a bad thing for me. It was an interesting, I want to know more about that.
What would you say to someone who is in your position when they first hear about banking or the cash compound or the possibility of recapturing money? What would you say if they're like, I'm not sure, or that's not for me because it doesn't sound right? What would you say to them?
What I do say is, hey, this didn't make a lick of sense to me either. I am not the person to explain this to you, but let me show you this. or let me let you talk to Jeremiah. That's a better way to do it than just saying, no, you're wrong. Listen to this. It's more of, hey, I didn't get it either. You're not the only one who's confused about this, but let me show you who's not confused about it. And then point them to an answer.
And that's why I sucked so bad in high school, because all my teachers were like, no, you're wrong, you're stupid. And I was like, I know, but I don't like you, right? So it's not about the argument. And that's, I think, when most people who are going to introduce this idea to friends, family members, and business partners, right? Those are the people they see and know and regularly interact with. But it probably has a tendency to get into confusing arguments and a one-upmanship over and over. And
sure,
you're saying that's not how you learn.
Right. So in many areas of life, ego can get you in trouble that way, because it's perfectly fine to be ignorant about any topic, but you don't want that ignorance to be terminal. Like you don't have to stay ignorant about something.
Yeah. So what type of philosophies over the course of the last, we took a look at some of your contract, your first contract that you started, and it's just over 2 years, or we're coming up on 3? Was it 3? Yeah, we're coming up on 2 full years.
Yeah, 2 full years.
Yes. Okay.
In December.
So so what philosophies about money, savings, retirement, any of those things that you may have been doing in the past or you used to do, or your debt payoff strategy, what has changed? If anything. And of course, you've changed careers in that time too.
For sure. And I will admit that it has given me I have not delved into it as deep as your education course are allowing people to do now. And I'm going to have to go back and do that. But for me, in the 2 years, starting my own company and being a small business and going through that grind, it is not easy. It is not lucrative. And this gave me a literal insurance policy. It gave me a buffer to fall back on if I needed something, if I had a car repair come up, which I had multiple times because...
That keeps happening to me.
Right.
Tell you what.
2006, that was a good year for a car. So having a resource there that I knew that I wasn't touching for stupid things like going out to eat or a vacation or something like that. Although that's not a stupid thing. It's just when you're starting a company, when you're going through that and everything's tight, those are luxuries that you don't need. And I wasn't wasting money, but I knew that if I needed money, if I had an emergency, it was there. And I tried not to touch it as much as possible until I needed it.
Very nice. So another idea is, what do you think over time, how do you think a growing asset that you have will continue to affect your life and business? What goals do you have coming up in the future?
Growth, new projects, investment that I'm not dependent on other investors coming in and taking a percentage of the company or taking control over a project because they're giving me money. I can now fund the things that I want to do.
Yeah, and that's powerful, right? We can't quantify that on a P&L.
Right.
So you can fund your own, and that's obviously happened in lots of folks' lives, including myself. You know, when I'm when I have an opportunity, I've got cash, right? And cash helps you find opportunities, right? When you're in a position of cash.
It opens doors.
Nelson Nash said that in his book. You know, when you're in a position of cash, the opportunities will find you. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. So, okay, so where are you in your learning process? We do have these resources online. Admit to everybody what you're not taking advantage of that you should be, right? And encourage them that we're available to talk and get on the phone with, right?
So
we're helpful.
Helpful
we
phone
have educational,
voices.
Yeah.
They don't make you feel stupid for asking questions.
Like the one I just did in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Great job. Great job.
Oh,
you want to take over from here?
Well, no, I am not. I am not an educator at all. So I get loud, and if people have seen me on demos all the time, I make fun of them on demos, and it's not because I'm smarter or better. It's because we're all thinking backward about finances and money because we don't know any other options. We're doing crazy things all the time.
Anytime you can make a joke that takes the pressure out of the situation, it's like, yep, I didn't know that either, or whatever. But you've given people by doing the cash compound and the videos, you're breaking down a lot of information into bite-sized chunks. And so there's not the pressure of, I need to know this all now. You can educate yourself slowly and thoroughly and really come away prepared to use it to its full advantage, which I don't necessarily feel like I do right now, but I know where I can go when I'm ready to do that.
And of course, you're building an asset anyway.
Yes.
And it's guaranteed it's going up. There have been dividends.
Which is why I haven't dug into it yet, because it's been kind of 2020. Come on now.
Right. Of course. It was a rough year for us all.
For us all. But I know that, like, I don't have to think about it right now, because I know where the money's going. I know that it's building interest. I know that it's there when I need it. And when I'm ready to utilize it, then I'm going to attack the courses, find out what I need to do. And, fortunately, since we're friends, if I ever have a question, I can just be like, hey.
It does help when you're working with someone who lives in your own town, doesn't it?
Right. Yes.
Very good. Well, Lydia, we appreciate you jumping on the Chronicles today and giving the people a little interest into your life. I hope some of them find you out there, and we continue to converse on some of our platforms. And we appreciate you guys jumping in for another great episode here at the Cash Compound. We're helping you build wealth, people just like you, me, and Lydia, and cracking that code to cash flow without ever locking up your money, giving up control, or taking on risk. Thank you so much for being in studio with us today.
Absolutely.
And have yourself a great new year.
And a merry little Christmas.